Alright guys, so Manga Animus posted a new video, what if Nanami and Todo were in the Culling games? Now off rip, Nanami would not fare very well. I'm just going to be completely honest. Nanami does not have a domain. He would not fare well, especially in like Sendai Colony. If he got dropped into the colony Yuji was in, he could probably beat the little propeller head couple. I think their names were Hana and Haba and something else.
What if Nanami, Toji, and Todo had been in the Culling games?
Todo would probably survive.
Let's talk about it. All right, first of all, shout out to Robert and ASVP who both asked me this. I'm not sure if this is the same person supporting on two different platforms. If so, absolute legend. If not, crazy coincidence. But thank you guys. And first and foremost, both wanted to know this, but Robert specifically said how many points would they have? And as fate would have it,
I feel like it's tough. It really depends on the colony. I feel like, so let's see. Higuruma and Kashimo have about like 100 or 200 points or something like that, right? I guess I would say maybe Nanami could get like 20. Todo might have like 30 to 40 max.
Have put out an entire video talking about what if Toji was in the Culling games before, and he would basically have all the points. So check out that video. I think it was at the
Yeah, Toji basically sweeps the Culling games. The only people Toji might lose to is like, you know, Kashimo. Even without NBA, I think Kashimo could probably defeat Toji. Yeah, I think he could do it. And then let's think. Who else? Maybe he might have a little trouble with Jane Juliet or Ryu Ishigori just because, you know, Ryu was kind of boxing with Rika, you know? So I just feel like he kind of has the strength and speed feats. And yeah, I feel like he would give Toji some trouble. Maybe like mid diff at least, or high diff for Toji.
end of February. It was about 2 months back. But if you just
But the rest of Sendai Colony, Kuroshi pretty much sweeps. Toji sweeps. Toji could probably take down Kuroshi. He could probably take down Uro. He might be a little annoyed with Uro, but I'm sure he'll get off a speed blitz eventually and just defeat Uro. And Druve shouldn't be too difficult to defeat, I think.
search, what if Toji was in the Culling games, I'm sure you'll find it. But as far as Nanami and Todo, we could kind of just hypothetically say, how they would fare in certain matchups depending on what colony they were in. But I honestly think it would be a bit more interesting to think of like a direct storyline to insert them in the Culling games. So with Nanami,
Yeah.
I thought it would be really interesting if we pair him with Megami. But let me just go ahead and get it out of the way that yes, it would be awesome to see Nanami and Higuruma interact, but I think
Oh yeah, for sure. People say, bro, these are literally the two most relatable JJK characters, man. And they're both kind of depressed from work essentially. They're just kind of relatable.
Yuji and Higuruma's plotline already works really well, and I think Yuji is positioned well to be the one to get through to Higuruma in that moment. But yeah, this would be a goated duo, don't get me wrong. Now, the reason I think it would be cool to pair Nanami with Megami is that we could complete this kind of trifecta of him saving all three members of our main trio here. Nobara, Yuji, and now Megami in the Culling games. Specifically, I think we have Nanami show up in place of Takaba. So when Megami is facing down that essentially 4v1 when it comes to Reggie and his henchmen, Nanami steps up to deal with Hazanoki while Megami tackles Reggie. And I think this
I don't know if Nanami is doing anything to Hazanoki because it's implied that Hazanoki has reverse curse technique because his literal curse technique is to rip off his teeth and his eyes, and he uses those as explosions. But in the next panels and frames, we see he's back to normal. So it's essentially implied that he has RCT, right? And his explosions seem to be pretty powerful, honestly, I think Nanami is losing this. I think Nanami is going to lose this one, to be honest.
Could be an incredibly emotional moment, basically replacing the "you've got it" from here.
I'm not a huge power scaler, but would Nanami even really have like the physical feats, the physical scaling to even like really compete with Hazanoki? But at the same time, we don't see Hazanoki too much anyways, but it's just when he used his eyeball as an explosion, like it was just a huge area of effect. Like I just don't see Nanami's answer to this guy just using his eyes and teeth and chucking it at Nanami, using it as a bomb. Like I just don't see how Nanami's really going to survive that. Nanami doesn't even have RCT.
In Shibuya with Yuji, but now with Megami, where Nanami literally trades his life to save Megami's by dealing with Hazanoki. So Hazanoki would also die here because we know he's a massive threat with RCT. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like a big climactic way this could finish would be Nanami getting some sort of like lethal ratio on Hazanoki, maybe even like cleaving him in two. And
Mm.
Hazanoki, in response to that, literally destructs his entire body, which would take out Nanami as well. Now, as far as Todo, first, we gotta just magically get
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair actually. I really wonder how big the explosion would be if Hazanoki like just decided F it all, I'm just blowing myself up.
give him his hand back. But second, I think we place him on the Tengen protection squad alongside Choso and Yuki because I think that dynamic is ripe for
Oh, okay, yeah. If he's helping them fight, you know, spoiler alert, if he's helping them fight Kenjaku, honestly, Todo could probably change the tide of the entire battle because maybe like the instant Yuki realizes that Kenjaku has a barrierless and open domain, Todo could just, well, actually never mind. That doesn't make sense. I was going to say Todo could teleport her out of, Kenjaku's domain expansion, but he does have an open barrier. Now I don't know if Kenjaku's domain has a 200-meter radius similar to Sukuna's. If Kenjaku doesn't have a 200-meter radius domain, then yeah, I guess maybe Todo could still probably teleport Yuki outside of it. But if all open domains kind of have like this huge range of like 200 meters ish, then there's no teleporting out of that. You're cooked.
really interesting development. We would obviously not only get some awesome bruzza development between Yuji's two besties, but it would also be really cool to explore this student teacher
Yeah, bro. Literally, people were mad that Yuki never met Todo again, just because of Todo's backstory with Yuki. Like, it just felt weird that they never met again.
dynamic. And major spoilers for any of my anime onlys, scroll away. But this would be jam packed with emotion as well when we get to see Yuki's death through Toto's eyes. Because yes, Kenjaku still needs to win here, and this would be massive Kenny upscale if he 3v1s, including Todo now, but I think it
Yeah.
would be hype, and I think this would be a really good excuse to showcase some more special grade cursed spirits, of which we didn't really
I wonder if in this hypothetical 3v1, would Kenjaku try and kill Todo first due to just the overall absurdness of Todo's curse technique, like just due to purely how annoying it would be having Todo constantly moving you around the battlefield. Like for some reason, I just feel like with Kenjaku's battle IQ, he might try and just kill Todo first, like even before he deals with Yuki or Chosa.
get to see many in the series, right? So just like Kenny unleashed Kuroshi and Sendai, maybe he drops 2 or 3 crazy special grade spirits to deal with Choso and Todo while he handles Yuki. But ultimately, the fight would end the same way, like I said, and maybe Todo loses his hand in this battle in order to sidetrack him for the rest of the series. So I don't know. Let me know what y'all think. But if we had to put these two in the Culling games without overly disrupting the main narrative too much, I think that would be a really cool way to insert both of them and get some
Fair.
really emotional moments out of it. But I would love to hear y'all's ideas for this as well. Then also today we got a few more questions, starting with this one from Sergeant Yuta, who wanted to know what if Principal Yaga hadn't died and had been a participant in the Culling game?
I mean, uh, Principal Yaga. I mean, what's his curse technique again? He can create corpse dolls, right? He created Panda. Uh, I mean, the way people were glazing and hyping him up, the way Principal Gaku Ganji was like scared of this dude Yaga creating an army of cursed corpses. Low-key, I'm thinking he can solo. Like just based on the hype alone, it's like maybe he can solo, maybe he can make a whole army. But if we're being realistic, just with how JJK is, he's probably gonna get one shot by like some type of just strong sorcerer. Like he doesn't have any feats. Like I want to glaze Yaga if possible, but like there's nothing that he really has. And also to create cursed corpses, doesn't he need like 3 souls, or isn't it some like super long arduous process to create them? Yaga just isn't going to make it far, man. He's not confirmed to have a domain expansion. He's not confirmed to have reverse curse technique. And in general, his curse technique, in order for it to be overpowered, he would have to like create cursed corpses over like years and just like build an entire army. Like he can't just build a whole army in like 1 second, you know?
He wanted to know if I thought he would go and meet with Tengen and if he might have been the ones to stay back and defend Tengen against Kenjaku. And yeah,
Uh what is Yaga doing against Kenjaku, like realistically? And here, let's power scale him a little bit. He was able to create Panda, right? This guy is Panda's father, essentially. While Panda is pretty strong, right? I believe Panda is a grade 1 Jujutsu sorcerer. Panda still got blitzed by like, spoiler alert, but Panda still got blitzed by like Kashimo. And Panda overall still just isn't like a key player in JJK. He's not that strong. And this is Yaga's best like cursed corpse feat. So even if he had a bunch of cursed corpses, I don't think he's really even going to be able to help defeat Kenjaku like that.
yeah, if Yaga had survived, I certainly think he would have been right there on board with everyone else trying his best to prevent this and stop this. So, specifically, if he had been there to, try and protect Tengen, I think.
Does Yaga at least know about like barriers, not domain expansions, but does Yaga at least know how to create like create a veil or something that could maybe protect Tengen even more or something like that? Maybe you could do a binding vow, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, what Yuta specifically said was that if he took Choso's place, then yeah, I think they do far worse. Yes, he's
Thank
the
you.
principal, grade
Thank you.
one, definitely not a slap.
Yeah, like even Animongus gets it. Shoot. Why am I forgetting his name now, bro? Manga Animus, dang it. I flipped it around, my bad. But like, yeah, it's like Yaga, he's cool, but he's not like some super overpowered sorcerer.
Ouch or anything, but I really don't think he packed too big of a threat. Yes, he was technically considered a special grade, or at least had the potential to be, due to the way he could create an army of cursed corpses.
Yeah.
But we know how.
Keyword though, potential. Megumi had the potential to be on par with Gojo Satoru since he had, the 10 shadows. But this is the issue with potential. Potential isn't real. Potential is a false future reality. You have to actually make it a reality.
He creates those, right? Basically using the information of deceased people's souls, and he needs multiple of them, right? And basically the only time he used this was to help grieving parents and people who had lost loved ones. Really, we know that Yaga wasn't actually building an army of soldiers. So while his technique does have some.
Bro, the Jujutsu higher-ups are so stupid. Come on. Like, what? Did they genuinely believe this dude was building like an army of cursed corpses? Like, in all seriousness, bro, it's just so BS.
Incredible potential. He didn't actually have that, right? So it's not as if Yaga had an army.
Like, if we cut the BS, I feel like even Gaku Ganji knew Yaga wasn't trying to create some army. Like, just if we're being realistic, like, come on. And Gaku Ganji isn't some idiot either. Like, I genuinely think Gaku Ganji he's just like a slave to Jujutsu society. He just follows the orders and rules that he's given. But if he had to like bet his life, if Gaku Ganji had to bet his life on whether Yaga would end up creating an army or not, I feel like he would just say no.
Army of cursed corpses is at his disposal. Really, all he had was Panda in terms of a combatant cursed corpse and himself. So, unless he had some like insane latent ability, like he was throwing hands better than Yuji, even, I just really don't think he moves the needle at all in the Kenjaku fight. And if he goes with Panda into the colonies instead of staying back with a Tengen, then
I think the only thing Yaga could help with is maybe he could try and like I don't even think this is necessary, but Yaga can understand the soul, right? I think Yaga has a comprehension over how souls work in Jujutsu Kaisen due to him imbuing multiple souls into Panda, right? So maybe he could teach Yuki how to do like soul punches or something like that, but even that's not really necessary. Like, you don't really need to know about the soul to fight Kenjaku. You really only need it for Mahito, but I guess that's one way Yaga could help teaching Choso and Yuki about the soul. I don't really know, man.
He probably just dies to Kashimo.
Yeah,
But you know,
yup.
no disrespect
Bro, Kashimo is speed blitzing him.
to the principal, but yeah, he just at least never that we saw showed much, prowess in the regard that I think he would really change things in the Culling games. And then speaking of Kashimo, Cecilia asked me who I thought would win between Yuki and Kashimo. And this
Ooh, okay. So okay, let's assume Kashimo is not allowed to use, NBA Mythical Beast Amber because he's saving that for Sukuna, right? So Kashimo, he has his cursed energy has the effect of lightning. He can shock people essentially. He is extremely fast. He fared well against spoiler alert Hikari. This is okay. Ultimately, I want to give it to Yuki for multiple reasons. Yuki has reverse curse technique. I don't believe Kashimo even has RCT or even a domain expansion. Second, we know that Yuki has a domain expansion. She didn't use it in her fight against Kenjaku, but she does literally have a domain expansion, which will grant her sure hits, right? Now, Kashimo has Hollow Wicker Basket, right? I know Kashimo has, an anti-domain technique, Hollow Wicker Basket, but he's only going to be able to use that for what, 30 seconds max. Like, eventually Yuki's sure hits are going to reach Kashimo. So ultimately Yuki wins. The main reason being is if she can if she gets a sure hit due to her domain expansion and she's sending these mass punches that were able to basically nearly like one shot Kenjaku and stuff, it's over for Kashimo. I don't know if Kashimo has enough reaction and combat speed to really like dodge multiple of Yuki's punches. And again, even if he uses Hollow Wicker Basket, the moment Yuki uses her domain expansion, Kashimo should essentially be cooked because she should get sure hits. And even after that, she has her Shikigami Garuda, right? Now, I do think Kashimo will probably be able to dodge Garuda like 9 out of 10 times, but the odds are more in Yuki's favor. And just to summarize the entire argument, the main advantages Yuki has over Kashimo is she has reverse curse technique. She actually has a domain expansion, unlike Kashimo. Third is her curse technique is extremely overpowered. She can essentially has infinite mass and her punches basically one shot you, right? Fourth, she still kind of has Garuda, which could annoy Kashimo a bit. And fifth, Kashimo is not going to use Mythical Beast Amber. If this was NBA Kashimo versus Yuki, NBA Kashimo would speed blitz Yuki before she even says domain expansion, before she even says Ryoiki Tenkai, okay? Because NBA Kashimo can use any like electrical phenomenon, and even then, I mean, Kashimo's body becomes electricity. Yuki is getting speed blitz before she can open a domain.
This one is interesting because Kashimo matchups are always a little bit contentious because it's like, are we saying he uses his curse technique or not? And we know that, he was willing to die against Hikari without using it because he wanted to save it for Sukuna, right? So I have to imagine he's not using it against her. And in that case, I think he loses. Yes, he has his sure hit of the electricity, but we know that that is.
Oh, yeah, I forgot Kashimo had that. That's crazy. Wait, so Kashimo's, because his cursed energy nature is lightning, he literally basically has like sure hits. I'm assuming either due to just the speed of his cursed energy or just the nature of it. Yeah, that's overpowered. maybe Kashimo could stand a little bit of a chance, but I think Yuki could maybe survive Kashimo's lightning. I don't really know. I'm not like a huge power scaler.
Survivable as long as it just like doesn't point blank hit you in the brain, right? Yuki has RCT and
Yes.
her hits are going to hurt way more than Hikari's. And she has a domain
Yes.
expansion that might just,
Yup, literally has a domain expansion.
kill Kashimo instantly.
Here's the thing. Hollow Wicker Basket cannot save Kashimo from Yuki because I don't know if I remembered this wrong, but for anti-domain techniques like freaking Hollow Wicker Basket and just general anti-domain techniques, they only last like 30 seconds, right? Even Todo I think even Todo tried to do like a simple domain to protect against Mahito sure hit, but that didn't really end up working. But yeah, just in general, anti-domain techniques don't last the entire fight from what I've seen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially domain expansions are always stronger than anti-domain techniques.
For all we know. So I'm going with her there. Then staying on the Kashimo train, Hello asked me, how strong would Kashimo be if he had domain amplification? Now,
Uh domain amplification. Wait, what does that wait, would he even need to use domain amplification against any opponent outside of Gojo Satoru? It wouldn't make him much stronger, right? All domain amplification lets you do is like, I guess, like sure hit basically, right? I mean, he Kashimo, from what I'm seeing, has no reason to use domain amplification unless he's fighting Gojo, because Gojo has infinity. So it wouldn't make him much stronger.
I'm not entirely sure what Hello meant by this, but I'm assuming they mean if domain amplification would allow Kashimo to activate and then stop his curse technique. Because as we know, he can only use his curse technique once because it will ultimately kill him. Some people theorize, well, hey, we know we can't use domain amp and your technique at the same time, so maybe if Kashimo had domain amp, he could use his technique and then forcibly stop it with domain amp and then, use it as many times as he wants. Personally,
Mm.
I don't think that would work, if only because narratively it goes against Kashimo's design. Like, clearly he was meant to be this one and done. I don't think it was simple as, oh, too bad he never learned domain amp, right? But if we just want to snap our fingers and grant that
Kashimo ended up being pretty disappointing. Like, I expected him to be this super cool character. I wish he lasted longer against Sukuna at the very least, and we could have gotten to see more of NBA, but Akutami just set this man up, bro. And I've been seeing people call Kashimo a bum. They say he has no RCT. They say he has no domain amplification. They say he doesn't even have a domain expansion. And they literally call him a farmer. They say that Kashimo was the strongest in an era of farmers. Oh, Lord.
Kashimo can now just use his technique as much as he wants, he gets way stronger, right? Because that technique is absolutely busted. So if he can just turn that on and off at his leisure, yeah, he's a demon. He still doesn't have a domain expansion, so I think he's
How are you the strongest of an era with no domain expansion?
still in a tough spot against the top tiers of the verse, but he was always in a tough spot against.
You know what's crazy? I actually watched a manga animist short a while ago. And even in general, this is kind of something I've noticed, even just on my own. But reverse curse technique, I'm pretty sure, is actually rarer than domain expansions, which really does go against the narrative that, Sukuna says, and, that sorcerers in general say domain expansion is the ultimate technique. Like, throughout JJK, it's said that domain expansions are the peak of Jujutsu sorcery. Yet domain expansions are less rare than reverse curse technique. So that is like, it just doesn't make sense. That's contradictory, right? It makes more sense to say RCT is the peak of Jujutsu sorcery because it's a lot rarer.
Top tiers of the verse. This just
And I think maximum techniques like Jogo's Jogo's Meteor and stuff is even rarer than even RCT. So there's just a lot of like conflicting stuff.
Just makes him way better against everyone else. But against everyone else, mostly he didn't even need his technique anyway. So this doesn't really change too much for his overall placement, but he
The only people Kashimo would ever really need to use his technique against within like the entire JJK verse, not counting Modulo, is really just gonna be like, it's gonna be, you know, Gojo and Sukuna, obviously, Kenjaku most likely, Yuta Akotsu, yeah. Kashimo is not beating Yuta Akotsu without using MBA. But yeah, it's really about those four plus, you know, Yuki, Yorozu. Yeah, I wonder how Yorozu versus Kashimo would go. Well, Yorozu has a domain expansion and she has infinite spear. She has this infinite pressure thing. It's called a perfect sphere. Yeah, bro. Kashimo is cooked, bro. If Kashimo fought Yorozu, he would get like mid-diffed essentially. Because if Yorozu just opens up her domain expansion and then she pulls out perfect sphere, the literal moment it touches Kashimo, he dies. It's not even funny. And honestly, even if Kashimo used MBA form against Yuki, Yuki could low-key just use the black hole. Now, yes, they would both die, but, you know, Yuki's black hole versus Kashimo's MBA. And in that case, it's really just a battle of who can pull it off first. I think Kashimo can transform into MBA and speed blitz Yuki before Yuki can, you know, turn herself into a black hole, because I think turning herself into a black hole took like maybe 20-30 seconds. For Kashimo to get into MBA form, I'm assuming it would only take around maybe like 10 seconds max. But it's kind of just my headcanon and a little bit based on, you know, what I've seen from manga spoilers.
obviously gets way stronger. And then finally today, Jams asked, is it possible to land a Black Flash with a weapon? For example, could you
Hasn't Nanami literally done that like 4 times? I'm pretty sure it is. Doesn't Nanami always use his weapon to land black flashes?
to hit a Black Flash with a sword strike? And yes, it is possible. We've seen this with both Nobara and Nanami, basically channel Black Flashes through their tools. Now,
Wait, did Nobara do it against Mahito in Shibuya? Oh yeah, when she used the nail. Yeah, okay, when she used the nail or whatever. Okay.
this
Okay.
doesn't mean that you can hit a Black Flash with anything. In both Nobara and Nanami's case, they're still channeling that cursed energy and hitting that precise timing just with a tool, right? Like Nanami is hitting his ratio technique, applying that cursed energy within the billionth of a second. It's just happening with the tool instead of his fist, right? Same with Nobara and her curse technique with the hammer and nail. For example, you wouldn't be able to hit a Black Flash with the inverted spear of heaven because there's not any actual application of cursed energy happening with the inverted spear, right? So assuming you have a scenario where it's actually like a strike that can have that timed applied application of cursed energy, then yeah, you could Black Flash with it. So yeah, Yuta could technically Black Flash with his sword as well. Anyways, y'all, that's gonna do it for this one. So
All right, pretty chill video. I liked it. So yeah, ultimately, main takeaways: Nanami is not faring well in the Culling games. Todo will be all right. Yuki defeats Kashimo. If Kashimo decides to use Mythical Beast Amber, he speed blitzes Yuki. That's about it, right? If you what was it? Yaga's not really gonna be able to help against Kenjaku. That's about it.